Good evening, councillors. Please be seated. Welcome to the meeting. Councillors, officers, public and press, and anyone who may be viewing online. Can I just remind councillors that they should be seated in the seats allocated to them for voting purposes, and can I also remind councillors to turn their microphones on while speaking and to turn them off again once finished, otherwise you will not be heard on the broadcast. So, any official apologies for absence? No. Declarations of interest, agenda item 1. Councillors need to declare their interest in the items on the agenda. Can I remind councillors that you should declare the type of interest you have, the agenda item in reference in question, the reason why you have an interest. So, Councillor Benson first.
In the ladies' report as a trustee of Showtown. Thank you.
Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. Personal interest in gender item 8 on their maternity leave.
And Councillor Smith.
Personal interest also on agenda item 8 around maternity leave.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Councillor Humphreys first.
Can I express an interest in item number 6, council tax reduction? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fenlon.
Express an interest in item number 6, council tax reduction.
Thank you. And Councillor Burdess.
Personal interest in item 6, council tax reduction.
Councillor Critchley.
Oh, sorry, Mayor. Yeah, personal interest in number 6, council tax reduction.
Can I just clarify, is that because the ones that declared an interest in item 6 is because you're in receipt of it? In that sense, right? Okay, thank you.
So is that the 20% discount or the larger discount? Because there's a different level of the discount. I got a bit confused, we never declared this in the past on that, so I just want to confirm which level of discount that it refers to, but on there. But.
Mayor, I think again with item number 6, all the interest needs to be declared is the reason why there's an interest, and they've clarified it's because they're in receipt of it. It doesn't need to be any more particular than that.
Thank you. In that case, is there anyone else? No. Moving on. Thank you. Agenda item 2, minutes of the last meeting held on the 29th of November 2023 and the 11th of January 2024. Councillors to agree the minutes of the meeting held on both on November the 23rd as a true and correct record. Agreed? Anyone disagree? No? And councillors to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of January as a true and correct record. Agreed? Thank you. Announcements. I just have one. It's a little bit of a personal one. Just to let you know that finally we have a date for the mayoral ball, which is going to be on the 26th of April, which is a Friday. I did try and get Saturday, but it's a Friday, I'm afraid. And it's going to be at the Spanish Hall in the Winter Gardens. It promises to be a very glamorous affair if Councillor Hoyle has anything to do with it anyway, that's for sure. So there'll be more details hopefully with you next week. It would be great to see as many of you there as possible because, as you know, it's all for charity. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is public representation. We have Mr. Tim Allen to address the council. Mr. Allen, you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak and you will receive a warning light at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I'm here to talk to you about the LGBTQ+ initiative, which has been developed over the last year. At the heart of it are the words, and very important words, be who you want to be. I'm privileged, I'm lucky, because I'm here. I'm allowed to have a voice in this town. I interfere with quite a lot of things, I think, but I am lucky that you've allowed me to come. The initiative itself needs everyone's support, And I know that within this building and in this council, you have given it greatly. There is a large LGBT community out there. Some of them, or many of them even, struggle. They struggle with housing, they struggle with themselves and identity, they struggle with some homophobia within town, and we have to make this get better. But we have quite a good start in some ways, because we have the initiative, we have a very good consultation that's gone out with 269 people who've responded, and they've made it very clear what their priorities are. And their priorities, number one, are they want to feel safe in this town. And there are people out there who don't. There are young people out there who don't. And they don't in Claremont. And that's the number one thing that we have got to drive through with this action plan. If we don't get that bit right and developed, I'm not using the word improved, but developed, it's not going to have the confidence of people. So yourselves and the police have to sit down, and I know everyone is willing to do this, to make adjustments to the way things work. The health of people in this town and in the LGBTQ plus community is not perhaps fantastic. And there is a lot of work that has been done through public health, through Renaissance, but we need to develop ways of finding out where the gaps are, so anything that has been missed is improved. We also need to look at the art, history and culture of the offer that Blackpool makes. It's amazing how much is going on in Blackpool. We have already been round just about everyone in Blackpool that gives something to the arts and culture and heritage, and they are all on board with this. And so that is something which I think will get developed naturally over time. There is more that we should be doing here. For example, we have Gay History Month coming up. There is very, very little going on. We should be celebrating World AIDS Day later on in the year in different ways. And so you can see there are ways to develop this. They are small ways, but they are significant. We need to make certain that the community is recognised in Blackpool. And that means that they feel proud to be part of Blackpool. That means the actual public realm side of things needs to be developed. And my goodness, in some places, it does need to be developed. But again, a lot is being done. There's so much regeneration going on that we should be really pleased with the progress. But the money involved to get things good in Claremont is vast. But it has to be done. There has to also be initial signals that there is good recognition by this body for the LGBT community. And I'm delighted that's happening. I've been involved in this stuff for 10 years. The council gave me great support when I was running Pride in 2013, and they've continued to do so. This initiative started a year and a half ago with the leader, who gave great support to all this. And now we're in a situation where in the next few weeks there will be an improvement in the public realm, in what you can see on the streets. And the message to the gay community is going to be, this is serious, because it has to be serious. And the action plan has to be delivered. That's quite a challenge for everyone. There is a launch for all this event next Thursday. I think you already know, and I hope you all come. One at the library at lunchtime, where there are a lot of young people who are performing, and one in the evening, which is more for adults. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell, I believe you're responding on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr Allen, for your address to council. Firstly, I would like to personally thank you for all the hard work, passion, support and energy you have contributed to driving forward the Be Who You Want to Be agenda and subsequent action plan. So thank you, Tim. In a number of the things I'm going to say, I am sure I will echo many of the sentiments that you have kindly shared. We have for a long time wanted to have a focus on the area sitting on the southwestern part of the Claremont ward, where we know there is a long-established LGBTQ+ community and a business community making a huge cultural and economic contribution to the town. Discussions, as you said, Tim, had started before COVID in relation to moving the project forward. However, understandably, progress was halted and then picked up last year when the leader attended a number of North Shore Business Group's meetings, which you chair. The Be Who You Want to Be agenda is not only important to us in the development of the area, which links in with the town centre strategy, the Claremont Master Plan and the Cultural Hub, but also in relation to supporting equality, inclusion and celebrating diversity in our town, which is central to the council plan. This work will not only catalyse the regeneration of the area, but will also build an inclusive culture across Blackpool. The response to the consultation has been amazing, and I want to thank all those residents, businesses, visitors, young people and stakeholder groups that have taken the time to share their thoughts and feelings in relation to the future of this area. We have had nearly 300 responses to the questionnaire, which included over 3,000 comments, and in addition, workshops were held relating to health and well-being, young people, safety and security, and arts and culture, all of which you have mentioned. And that has enabled us to put together the Be Who You Want to Be action plan, which is ambitious and aspirational and sets out an agenda aimed at a vision of vibrancy, investment, sense of place, diversity, safety and security, and a quality environment. I'm really looking forward to continuing to be part of driving this fabulous initiative forward together with the community. I know with the support, commitment, passion and enthusiasm of the community, the Be Who You Want to Be area will be a huge success. Once again, thank you, Tim, for taking the time to share with us your support for the area. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. So moving on, we have agenda item 5, which is executive reports. So just a reminder, there's 3 minutes for each executive member to present the report, 3 minutes per question or comment from any councillor on anything within the portfolio, and no limit to the number of times unless a councillor can ask a question. So over to you, Leader of the Council, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, happy to prepare my report and to answer any questions. Thank you.
It was easy. Okay, so we'll do what we've done before and we'll go through it theme by theme. So we've got theme 1, which is devolution. Do we have any questions? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. I notice the leader's chosen, obviously, devolution as a first theme and tourism as a second. I think in my 13 years of being a councillor, almost 13 years of being a councillor, Mayor, this is the first time I can remember the no financial update in the presentation by a leader of this council to this chamber. So we will answer or ask what we can with the choices that are in front of us. As regards devolution, Mayor, I note the progress that has been made, and we have a full council, a special full council lined up. My concern around this topic, and I expressed this in an email to the leader, which she never replied to during the time that the consultation was on, Mayor, it was that the lack of communication with the public, especially those of us in Blackpool who don't have access to the internet, be that they can't afford the data to reach it or they don't have the skills to use it. How did we reach those people? We only had one public meeting in Blackpool, that was at night. It was in Central Library. How would any of the elderly be able to get there? A lot of elderly people don't like coming into Blackpool at night time. It just felt, we talk, as that gentleman rightly said, Mr. White, we want to be an inclusive town. This did not feel like at all inclusive. It felt actually quite exclusive. So what I would like to know from the leader, what can we do to rectify it, bearing in mind when I contacted you at the time, we still had a week to try and fix something. Obviously that has passed. What can we do now to reach out to the digitally excluded, as well as actually probably a good percentage of those who have access to the internet and may not have been aware? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Garley. Any further questions on theme 1? No, in that case, we'll just move to theme 2 and we'll ask the leader to answer at the end of all the questions. So theme 2 is tourism. Does anyone have any questions there? Councillor Galley again.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. In the previous full council, I highlighted a number of empty properties in a row that sit opposite the Metropole. One of those properties, it was subsequently announced that it was going to be on sale because the council own it. And the leader at the time said it was really difficult to deal with these issues because we don't own them. Well, actually, we did own one. But there is yet another black empty building on the promenade, the Sands venue. Now, a certain time, a few years ago, the council made a loan provision, Mayor, of around 10 million to Cool Silk. What I would like to know is, bearing in mind that hotel hasn't opened, when it will open, and our interest payments being made back on that loan that we put the provision for at the time. So if the leader could answer that, we would be hugely grateful.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Any further questions on theme 2 of the leader's report? No? In that case, I'll just pass over to you, Leader, and before we go on to questions or comments, further questions.
I apologise, I had replied. I discussed it with officers as to what we could do, anything differently, or how. I mean, in the overall, we did actually have another consultation. We had a business meeting, and with the forms and all of that was there to discuss. I think it's really difficult in this current age. I understand that some people don't have access to it, but again, across the county, there have been a number of engagement results. I think I don't know the breakdown for Blackpool, but I do know that we were well represented in the overall return. The target number was 1,000 responses, and it was not far off 2,000, so almost double the target. And most of it has been over 50% has been positive. It is it's a difficult issue in trying to access, allow that. I understand it's really important, but, we had a public event, 2 public events, and had access through social media. And I think, a lot of people will have been able to access that, which is verified by the figures. In relation to the, you got me confused actually when you were talking about the Metropole, but in relation to the Sands venue, obviously there is a dispute, there is a legal dispute between the owner and his contractors. We aren't involved in that, and I can't comment any further on that. I don't have the information, and even if I did, I can't explain. But it is frustrating, the delay, absolutely, but that is outside of our control in that regard, so I can't give you an answer as to when it will open.
Oh, yeah, Councillor Gatley, sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mayor. There was a final part to that question, Mayor, for the leader, which was are interest payments being repaid on that loan provision?
Well, that is all ongoing. Obviously, the amount that you've mentioned are secured. Those negotiations are ongoing, and ultimately, when all of the situation has been resolved, and then we can make that information more available. But I haven't, we have taken all the necessary steps to ensure to protect that investment.
Thank you, Leader. In that case, we'll move on to general questions or comments on the Leader's portfolio. Councillor Mitchell.
I've asked twice in full council for the Labour leader to assess cuts to ward budgets whilst there are pressures on overall budgets to ensure this council can properly deliver basic services for taxpayers. I was widely mocked by Labour councillors inside the town hall and out of it. Councillor Burdess tried to state she didn't support my point. The leader twice shot me down, and Councillor Flanagan created this lovely Facebook post on the topic. For those at the back that can't read it, it says "bang head here." In the caption of the post, it states that the policy was rightly not supported and went so far as to describe my contribution as ill thought out and weak. Thank you, Councillor Flanagan, for your kind words. You'll appreciate my shock, Mayor, when I recently learned that ward budgets for the upcoming year are actually being cut. In light of this, would you say this policy is ill thought out and weak, as Councillor Flanagan so strongly believes, or would the leader care to admit that maybe I was right? I'll leave this on the table for you on the way out to bang your head on.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. You'll have to forgive me, I'm about to have a Ronnie Corbett moment. It's the bit where he sits in the chair, starts to tell you a story, takes you all over the place, and finally you do get to the destination. I will get to the destination. I have decided, leaders, to bring this to yourself with your portfolio, although there are themes in what I'm about to relate that possibly will be relevant to Councillor Farrell and to Councillor Burdess. So please do bear with me. There will be an ending to this. So, in December at home, we heard the pitter-patter of tiny feet. Not, however, those you're expecting, Councillor Webb. Ours had 4 feet, tails, furry bodies and a predilection for cheese. We were naturally horrified to find a mouse infestation and tried to contact the Council Pest Control Department for advice and assistance in divesting of us of our unwanted visitors. However, despite my persistence, the phone lines just rang and rang. I sent an email to an email box that was no longer in use, emailed the new email address, and my calls and emails continued to go unanswered. I am now 6 weeks later waiting for any sort of response. My distress, however, paled into insignificance when I experienced a sudden and huge surge in residents' inquiries, residents whose attempts to contact the department had parallels with my own experience. But as with everything, there was already a leveller, and that leveller made my mouse infestation pale into insignificance, as they had been infested with what I can only describe as a plague of rats of almost biblical proportion. And what has that got to do with planning, we may ask? Well, some years ago, prior to my being here, there was a contentious planning application for the use of the land on Warren Drive for residential development, and despite numerous objections, including our own objections, planning was allowed and the development has become what is now known as Woodlark Chase on Warren Drive. Issues with the construction and management of the development has caused some misery to the householders and the near residents of the properties, the latest just being the rat issue. Residents, councillors and our MP have all highlighted several issues with the developer, who has consistently prevaricated or refused to engage with us in any meaningful way. This has been the case with the rat issue, which is a serious public health issue. I understand that following the service of legal papers, the developers have now agreed to meet with the residents and our environmental protection team later this week. I understand also that Rentokil finally are due to commence work on the development on Thursday, and that they are going to be retained by the developers on a more ongoing basis. However, it should not take the council to go to the expense of a legal process because the developers have refused to engage despite the pleas from councillors, council officers and residents. The contempt and disregard that the developers appear to have shown for the people of this town and our council officers has been evident from the outset of their contentious application to develop that land, and it continues. One might have hoped they would have wanted to engage in a positive relationship with the authority and the residents with a view to securing...
Sorry, Councillor Sloman, it's just that your time's up now. Are you...
2 little tiny paragraphs.
Okay, I'll let you have it.
Quickly. Okay. So the objections to the development were well founded, and all our concerns based on our historical knowledge of the land and its unsuitability for development rather than theoretical rhetoric and an ability to throw huge amounts of cash to support appeals through the planning inspectorate are coming to pass. I sincerely hope on this basis that this council will ensure that we mount a robust and defensive response to prevent this developer mounting any further of what I consider to be land grabs in our town, and not set another foot on so much of the blade of grass. And finally, can we be assured, Leader, that the conditions agreed between the developer and council to mitigate concerns over the development and to demonstrate social value and investment have indeed been discharged? Thank you, everybody.
Councillor Sloman. Councillor Benson.
Sorry, did you hear me? I don't want to labour the point about ward budget, but one of my meetings I have is a Youth Anti-Social Partnership meeting, which sits monthly. And I just want to thank my colleagues from Brunswick, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Marshall, for their hard work. One of their initiatives was to complete a rubbish amnesty. And some of the partners, which are not the council, the police, health, have actively come out and thanked the councillors and the council for the work that they've been doing. There's a better feel about the area, the back alleys are clean, residents are now have a pride of their area and their community. I can't think a better way of spending their ward budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor Flanagan.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, thank you very much, Councillor Mitchell, for your contribution. I think the people in the chamber here will know, and members of the public will be aware, that the term banging your head here is born out largely of a frustration. And my frustration on that particular night, and continues to be, that certain members of the opposition appear to concentrate on this subject unnecessarily. And I say that because my frustration is in Greenlands, my own ward, our budget is used wisely. Along with Councillor Jones, we've supported so many community initiatives. And these are funds that are available because of the annihilation of the council budget that has prevented us from taking action and supporting our community groups in the way that we would hope to. My second frustration is for the people of Highfield, because if my colleague opposite cannot find any good causes to contribute to within his own ward, then I'm sure our hard-working colleague on this side of the bench would be able to help him find some well-deserving initiatives that would greatly appreciate from those funds. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier, I was denied the opportunity to talk to the leader about our financial update, as it was missing from her report. So I would use general questions to pick up a little bit of what I can from the issue. I am concerned, Mayor, around our level of short-term borrowings. They're some of the highest in England. They currently stand at 200 million. There is signs from the Bank of England that interest rates will not be going down. And to give you a little sort of placemat, Mayor, of where our short-term borrowings currently stand, the City of Manchester Council, for example, their short-term borrowings are 119 million. But there are other councils that are worse than us. Their short-term borrowings at Birmingham, for example, are 299 million. Croydon Council, their short-term borrowings are 300 million. And what we'll also know about what do those councils have in common is they've all had to declare Section 114 notices. My concern, Mayor, is how much are we paying in interest on those short-term borrowings? When are those loans going to have to be repaid? It's really interesting because I can't see a point, I cannot find a debt management plan. All of those things have been asked for in the public interest reports of those other councils that have suffered with. And so therefore, I would really be keen to know when we're going to pay those loans back, but crucially, how much a year we're paying in interest on them.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is about tourists, and I think it's obvious to all of us these days that most of the people who come to the town are coming by vehicle these days, not staying like they used to do, which puts a big onus on car parks. And we don't seem to have enough car parks at all. My question really is, because we haven't got enough car parks, people are getting fined for parking in the wrong places, and there's even people going down the wrong streets. As we know, we've just set up a zone just around this town hall. But how much money actually comes to the council from parking fines and other motorist offences? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to draw it to a close there. So, over to you to answer those lovely questions, Leader.
So, Councillor Mitchell, I don't think you'll be surprised that no, I don't think you were right. Echo what everybody else has said, and you know, reiterate that offer of advice and support from Councillor Hunter, or indeed from any member on this side as to how you might engage with your community. We agreed a small reduction, really in line, I think, you know, in terms of the general theme of the budget, which is doing more with less, and that is what we will do on this side of the House, of the Chamber. Councillor Sloman, I think the first thing is, I did know about this, and I think they moved really quickly, didn't they? You know, enforcement to deal with the issue once they knew to resolve that. Warren Drive, I think I was actually the chair of planning at that time. We refused it, and it was a planning inspector who granted that permission with all of those issues that were raised publicly. I think actually the meeting was in here. That there was that many members of the ward and other, you know, just concerned about the development. So yeah, we will. I'll follow with, you know, in terms of planning, but I'm sure that they will, you know, be looking to enforce the conditions. But again, you know, this kind of situation in terms of how developers are essentially not able to do as they wish, but that is in the hands of the government to strengthen that. You know, we've had lots of issues over the years in terms of developments being allowed to go ahead because the government brought in to argue the sustainability. So, you know, it's something that, you know, locally we've tried to do what we can within our powers, but really this is a question for government to resolve. Councillor Galley, the reason why, because at the last meeting there wasn't enough in my report, and given that, you know, we've at scrutiny leadership board, we've got in less than 4 weeks, we've got a full meeting on the budget. No council releases more financial information or makes that available in public. And in terms of, I can get you the figures from, but you know, this council approves treasury management 4 times a year. Everyone, I'm sure you read that report. All the information that you will require about short-term borrowing and the steps that we take is within that. Councillor Baker, we have a car park plan. This isn't actually my thing, car parks, but we do have a car park plan for across the town. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there's a really, really large car park being built by the new central development. People get fined more often than not because they choose to park where they want. We've had this when we was at an event at the Tower. We said, you're going to get a fine. How much is it? I'll leave it here. Because and we have this with the air show. A lot of the events, people want to park near where they are. They have options. So it isn't always the case, because Blackpool has been very, very busy indeed, I'm proud to say. But it isn't always the case that they can't go and park somewhere illegally and pay a car park. They choose to park and pay the fine. I don't know how much, I think Councillor Smith may well know that, but you can come to that in your updates. Who else was there? Was there another one? Was that it? Oh, Councillor Benson, yes, thank you. And Councillor Flanagan. Ward budgets are, I've said the same thing again. I'll be frustrating you, Councillor Flanagan, by repeating what I've said before. But no, ward budgets are important. They're important for us as community activists, and that's what we are. And we should be engaging with our communities and understanding where that money is spent best. There may be small amounts of money, but are incredibly significant to those small groups that are not able to apply for funds or have access by other means. So again, reiterate, you know, have a word. We'll give you some tips if you like, Councillor Mitchell. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So moving on to the Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for... Oh, right, sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, okay. Councillor Galley first, then Councillor Mitchell.
Just very briefly, if I can confirm that the Leader doesn't actually know the answer to the question of how much interest we're paying on one of our biggest areas at the moment of risk, 200 million. If you could provide the answer to us, at least in writing, we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. I'm clearly banging my head against a brick wall, but Labour councillors seem completely confused by my point. It has nothing to do with whether there are good projects to fund, and I'm sure there are a lot out there, and the much used comeback is wearing thin. As mentioned by Councillor Benson, these budgets are being used to keep the streets clean, a basic service which should be provided by the Labour Council anyway, and is clearly not being. If they're so important, Councillor Flanagan, Councillor Benson, Councillor Williams, where is your disgust at your own budget for them being cut?
Point of order, Chair.
Oh, Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I'm confused. My point of order, Mayor, is that the common rules of debate are being broken in that after a right of reply, the debate ends. You don't start a new debate after the right of reply of the original mover of the report.
Mayor, perhaps I can advise on that, if you can bear with me 1 second. Within the exec member reports, that after a question's been asked, there is a point of order. There is a right of reply allowed from the person that's asked the question. That's in the new rules that are agreed by council. So the further questions that have been asked by the Conservative members are permitted.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Towers. I wasn't aware of that. I was following the normal... No, I'm sorry? I'm normally work on the rules of standard rules of debate, but that's fine. But I assume that those rules, which clearly I haven't read, as I believed in the normal rules of debate, will allow for a further right of reply to any cabinet member should these things happen. In terms of the contributions, yep, that's fine. We can bat all day about how much is owed or what. But I'll come back to your original point, Councillor Galley. We're 156th in this list of contributions.
Sorry, Councillor Brooks, I'm going to have to interrupt you there because they did have a right to reply with the right there, but you weren't an original speaker, unfortunately.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to allow general questions.
We had finished general questions. I'm going to allow you this one, but I won't allow you another one. Yeah?
Thank you. I mean, I promise not to take the time of two quick paragraphs. I agree to withdraw, Mayor, in the interest of progress.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Okay, well in that case I'm going to go to the leader now and then we're going to go to the Deputy Leader's report. Leader, over to you.
Oh, it's all happening tonight. Yeah, I'll confirm in writing. I think it is... No, I mean, let's end that there. Councillor Mitchell, you're missing the point entirely. This is about you knowing your area, that you are represented by your residents to understand those local issues. You can shake your head, but that is the point, the whole point of ward budgets. Yeah, I think that was it, wasn't it?
Members, the Mayor's just asked me just to clarify the exact procedure rule. So it's procedure rule 11.6 of the standing orders relating to council meetings. And once a question comment has been answered, there may be follow-up questions, comments, but the Mayor may limit this if it is considered to be hindering wider debate. So again, just to remind everybody, the idea with the new format for the themed approach to exec member reports was that obviously there wouldn't be time limits on the amount of speeches that could be held around a particular theme, but the Mayor would in her wisdom, be able to sort of curtail debate if she felt that it was straying away from proper, proper assumptions being made and considered. But follow-up questions are permitted, but again, they've got to be managed properly.
Okay. Moving on. Deputy Leader of the Council, Cabinet Member for Partnerships and Performance, Councillor Ivan Taylor.
Hello, Mayor. Before dealing with any particular questions or points that people like to make, I would just like to refer to the theme of the private rented sector and the things that are happening to deal with that issue. Because in my long years on the council, I don't remember a time when this council has been so active in dealing with what has always been a significant issue within this borough. And I say that, and that includes my previous leader of the council as well. So, and I'd just like to mention one or two things that are happening in that area. First of all, as members will know, we are a pilot for the decent home standards in the private sector, something that we fought to get, and it's progressing. We've done that for 12 months now. The results, perhaps not surprisingly, is that about half the properties that have been examined do not reach the standard that's normal or required in the social housing sector. And some of those don't even reach the standard that normally applies to the legislation before this came out. So that's a real challenge, but we are the pilot that's actually doing the work to determine that. And it will, of course, be followed up. We're now introducing selective licensing in 8 of the inner wards, and that's good, and that will require landlords and anybody else with private rented accommodation to register and to comply with whatever is necessary to keep them up to standard that we are going to get. I forget just what it is now. I always get mixed up with what's confidential and what isn't. But that's really good investment. And obviously that will be used either to improve the properties where landlords are not playing the game and are not doing it. We will intervene and do it. Or if they're not suitable in any case in an area, demolition is very much on the cards, and we will do that too. So we're dealing here with something that's has always been around, and I'm so glad and so thankful for all the officers concerned. We know that, is this a secret? Is it? No, the OBE isn't a secret, is it? No, so Anthony, of course, has got the OBE, and a lot of that is in recognition of the important work that he's been doing, as well as the rest of the team, in this direction. So these are challenging and exciting times.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor, I'm going to have to stop you there. You've gone red.
Okay, I know there are problems, so you can ask me about them next. But
yeah.
You're all doing very well, and I hope you'll all be involved in it.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Okay, so we just have the one theme. Does anyone have any questions of improving housing quality? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. The introduction of civil penalties through the Housing and Planning Act 2016 allows local authorities to issue penalties of up to £30,000 on failing landlords. This should be of huge benefit to councils such as Blackpool that face the greatest challenges with funding housing enforcement, but often have the greatest deprivation and poorest housing stock. Surprisingly, a Freedom of Information request in 2021 shows that Blackpool Council had not used these powers since their introduction. I've tried to request the information from officers from 2021 onwards, and I've been passed from pillar to post without any answer. I suspect this is because there's still been 0 used. A third of the properties in Inner Blackpool are deemed non-decent by current standards, and although this council is talking tough on sorting the problem out and tackling rogue landlords, when they've been given the tools to tackle them, they've not used them. Approximately 80% of those in these properties in inner wards are vulnerable or receiving some kind of benefits. Why are we letting these residents down?
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Any further questions? Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to touch on one or two things that Councillor Taylor talked about there, and that in the report, the fact that we've managed to look at 300 houses since this pilot started, and 50% of those properties, 150 properties, were below the acceptable standard and had Category 1 hazards in, which we should enforce against and will enforce against. The reason this enforcement didn't happen in the past was because we didn't have the enforcement officers on the ground to do it. It's as simple as that. In the selective licensing areas. Fortunately, with the help of central government, we're in a pilot to try and rectify this situation, and we received a good sum of money to increase the number of enforcement officers who have been able to go and do that, and will continue to do that, and long may it remain so. But let's just understand what we're talking about. These properties below the standard, 50%, most of them wouldn't, well, probably all of them wouldn't meet the standards for social housing conditions. The social housing rented sector is far more regulated. We need more social housing in Blackpool. We've currently got about 9 or 10% of our entire housing stock is social housing, against a regional average of between 17 and 20%. So we need to move towards that, not only because it will give more people a chance of a secure tenancy rather than a 6-month tenancy, but it will also drive up standards across the piece. Just to take up what Councillor Mitchell just raised, I don't often agree with you, Councillor Mitchell, but on this occasion you're right. Civil penalties is a better route to go down for enforcing against these landlords that aren't delivering the goods on decent standards. Where you're incorrect though, Councillor Mitchell, because it was on my portfolio, was that we have used civil penalties. We have done it already. And the information will be there if you go back long enough, because when I was housing portfolio, I moved us from the old, we'll go to the magistrates court and see if we can get a fine of 150 quid to civil penalties, because you're right. You can take somebody for up to £30,000 if they are a rogue landlord. The difficulty with that, and it is a serious difficulty, is you then get involved in the law. And at the time we moved to the civil penalties, we hadn't got the capacity of enforcement officers or legal advice to defend against them, which is why we had to move back. But yes, I agree with him, we should go down the civil penalty route.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Any further questions on the theme? No, in that case, we'll just move to general questions and comments on the portfolio. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a general question, Councillor Taylor, regarding procurement and contracts, which I understand are in your portfolio. I was quite aghast just before Christmas to have been quoted a sum short of £2,000 to pay for a Christmas tree for the ward. We'd already had a Christmas tree that had failed and had died, and we had to replace it. On top of the almost £2,000 for the tree, I was quoted £800 to go and get a hole dug for the tree. I was quoted £250 for the tree to be cut down. So, approaching retirement age, I thought, what a lucrative business this is, because for £1,050, I can go down to B&Q, I can get myself a saw, I can get myself a wheelbarrow and a spade, and I would happily chop and happily dig for £1,050 a pop. However, all's well that ends well. I managed to secure a tree for £200. It was a cut tree. People might argue that's not sustainable. My cut tree is now helping to make sand dunes, I believe, down in St Anne's. Also, we were able to light the Christmas tree up and use that as a community event, which raised over £1,000 for our palliative care services. So in that regard, all's well that ends well. But if it's not due for imminent contractual review, could we please make sure that before next Christmas, that contract with whoever it is for the supply and planting of trees is revisited, because I could not justify, again, without getting into the bum fight of ward budgets, justify £2,000 for a Christmas tree. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Any further questions or comments? No. In that case, over to you then, Councillor Taylor.
With regard to the points that Councillor Mitchell makes, when he said, I think, why aren't you as a Labour councillor doing something about the problems in the private rented sector, all I can say is, you must be joking. I've just listed the things that we are doing effectively, and there is nowhere in the country that has these kind of problems, and some places do. That's as active as we are on this issue, because it's so important to us, to our people, and that's why we're doing it. With regard to the Christmas trees, I mean, there's more than just the Christmas tree involved in the pricing of it, though, isn't there? So, but yeah, you're... Right, okay. Well, I shall look into that. and make sure that if we are overpaying for what we're getting, we'll do something about it.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So moving on, we now have the Cabinet Member for Climate Change, Councillor Jane Hugo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to refer to the weather. And I think you'll all agree that lately the weather in January has been dreadful. Not just wind and rain like today, but we've had 3 named storms, Henk, Aisha and Jocelyn. And yet I'm extremely pleased to report that we haven't had any reports of significant flooding, unlike some other parts of the country and the northwest. In fact, we haven't had any affected homes since 2020, and that was in Queen Victoria Road area, and before that, Anchor's Home in 2017. We work extremely hard as a council to ensure we are flood resilient. We work closely with our partners from United Utilities, the Environment Agency, our Highways Department and our other counterparts from Lancashire County Council and Blackburn with Darwen to protect our residents against flooding. We've been very successful in securing funding to mitigate flood risk and guard against climate change across all our directorates. For example, our Parks team have accessed quick win funding to carry out sustainable drainage schemes at Stanley Park and Fisher's Field. These projects have been recognised as best practice by other authorities as something our neighbours plan to replicate so they too can put in extra measures to protect against flooding. In addition to this, our coastal protection assets are second to none. We have not had any breaches despite the recent storms, and we continue to hold the line. This is all great news, but we're not resting on our laurels. The Environment Agency and DEFRA are continuing to support Blackpool and have allocated 130 million for further coastal protection projects, as outlined in my report. And I'd like to thank all the officers for their ongoing commitment and dedication and efforts to ensure we keep Blackpool protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. So we have theme 1, which is climate adaptation and coastal protection. No. Theme 2, the green environment. No. And theme 3, play parks, area improvements. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just before I comment on play parks, I echo every one of your great words, Councillor Hugo, about the work that the team have done, and yourself as well. I know you've been at all of those meetings, both here in Blackpool and around Lancashire and further afield, so thank you for that. Anyone who's been on the end of a flood never forgets it, or the smell. Play parks. There is a concern, Mayor, that the parks team are going to change the way that friends groups work with them in terms of the contribution of VAT on play equipment. That means if a friends group is raising X amount for a swing, in the past the relationship has always been that the friends group would pay for the non-VAT money and the parks team would cover the 20%. There is now talk that that arrangement's going to stop and the friends groups will be paying all of it, including that extra 20%. Now, bearing in mind all of us as councillors at different points have helped fund play equipment with our ward budgets, that means we're taking less out of our ward budget, more out of ward budgets to pay that cost, which seems bonkers. So I don't know if you're aware, this may be something that's been done without necessarily involving you. So if that's something you could take up with the team, I suspect there will be consequences to that. Obviously, apart from the initial 20%, my biggest fear actually isn't a mathematical one. My biggest fear, Mayor, is that friends groups will actually say, why do we even need to tell the parks team about what we're going to install? The biggest rain on them in the past was the fact that they needed that 20% and it kept everybody in line. So if you can take that up with the team, that would be great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. And Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's great that so many more parks are being improved at the moment and having, renovations. It's absolutely fantastic. But it would be great if we can also keep up with the maintenance once these parks, you know, are set out. I know it can take a while if, you know, some of the equipment breaks because they have to order it in, so it can take a while. But there are some things like block paving and flagstones that I've seen barriered off on parks for over 2 years now, and you think it's just a couple of flagstones, it just needs to be replaced. You know, someone could easily trip on it, particularly in these winds when the barriers are blowing all over the place. So if once we have these new facilities, if we can just make sure that the maintenance is done, you know, in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on play areas? No, in that case, we're just going to go into general comments and questions, if that's okay, Councillor Hugo. Anything? No? You got away with that rather lightly, I think. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Galley, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm totally unaware of that arrangement, so I shall certainly look into that, and I completely understand the point that you're putting across there. So we'll find out more and get back to you on that. And Councillor Ellison, yes, there's nothing more frustrating, is there, when you know you've got a nice facility and it can't be used because there's a problem, and when that drags on and on, it's not great for anybody. I'm aware that the parks have got their own development plans, and I'll make sure that any new work, maintenance is built into that. And I think if anybody's got concerns of things dragging on for longer than they feel is appropriate, if you let me know or the officers know, and we'll see if we can expedite those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. So on to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Jim Hobson.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to present my report and take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So on to theme 1, Family Safeguarding Model. No. Theme 2, Demand Management. No. Theme 3, Better Start Extension. No. Feel as though I should ask you something. So, Councillor, general questions or comments? Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Carl Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. We're all aware of officers' efforts to reduce our reliance on expensive residential placements by supporting families to stay together. Although in its early rollout, the numbers have reduced, but somehow we've still overspent 6 million, even though the children's budget was increased by 4 million this year. Scary to think costs are going up faster than we can reduce the numbers. As an ex-foster carer, I was thrilled to sit on children and young people's scrutiny. I believe that when I attended scrutiny meetings, I would have the opportunity to assist in reversing this trend of exponential increase in costs. However, the massive amounts of spending don't seem to get really discussed. Scrutiny doesn't seem to me to tackle the real issues. Scrutiny should be about collective problem solving. Instead, officers tell us about what the problems are and answer their own questions. Last year I went to one meeting, about a pre-meeting, about another meeting, before I actually arrived at a scrutiny committee. If you take into account scrutiny leadership, which is another meeting about meetings, to what end? We'd all like to believe we're making a difference, but when I spoke last year with officers about providing our own children's home, I was shut down and told it wasn't really a good idea. Apparently this was due to historically poor inspections and the possibility of these being left empty. Why might they not be used when the costs are so substantially less? I'm aware it's now been looked into, which is great, but why didn't this decision come from scrutiny, and why didn't it happen years ago? We pay officers hundreds of thousands of pounds to look after our services, and as councillors we should be making sure we get value for money for the taxpayer. The single biggest issue facing Blackpool right now is around 90% of our cost spending is going on social care, which is up from 60% just a few years ago. All the talent and experience in this room, we should be able to expedite a solution. However, whoever government is in this time will not be turning on the taps to meet this level of spending. It's up to us to fix it. I would never want to see us turning our back on any child that needs our help. We should be capable of providing better care for our children without overexposing ourselves to what is clearly a broken market. We could be providing well-paid jobs within Blackpool and still spend less than we do now. But while we pour millions into this private residential black hole, everyone loses. Other services get squeezed, and our hard-working families have got another full council tax rise to come, on top of one of the highest council tax burdens in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Any further questions or comments on the portfolio? Councillor Williams.
Yes. Turn it on and off. The Blackpool market, this is national. I mean, how, you know, the amount that has been in the media, and the government has ignored an in-depth report. The recommendations are there, the steps to take to reform this, because it's a national scandal, the cost of residential children's placement. And in terms of looking at, you know, well, I'll leave that point to overstepping the mark, because it really makes me cross. Do you not think there are any consequences that your government could be held responsible for? This is national policy. And they've got the answers. They asked for it, they've got a report, and they've ignored it. And our children continue to suffer. At the same time, this council has committed time and time again to prioritise the children. So this isn't a Blackpool, just a sole Blackpool issue. And we've held our nerve and continue to fund where other local authorities haven't. And we've protected our children. And those other authorities that haven't invested, didn't hold their nerve, and now have, unfortunately, sadly, are paying the price, because it's going to cost them even more, because the government hasn't done anything to fix the problem, which, as I say, is a national scandal. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Williams. Any further speakers before I hand over to Councillor Hobson? No? Over to you then, Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Mitchell, thank you for the question. I actually take your point on quite a few points that you raised within what you have said there. Towards the end of last year, I attended a National Social Care Conference, and I met quite a few counterparts from both Labour and Conservative, and I didn't meet any of them who weren't significantly overspending on children's services. And as Councillor Williams pointed out, this is, as I said, a national problem. The government can fix this. They can stop the absolutely immoral charges that these private providers are making. With regards to your point around scrutiny, I'm sorry that your scrutiny experience hasn't been what you hoped for. I really value scrutiny. I do see scrutiny as that critical friend, and I want challenge from scrutiny. So, I mean, as you know, we do have a meeting in the very imminent future to look at some of the points that you raised, so I'm sure we can put a bit more meat on the bones in that meeting. So thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson. So we're now on to the Cabinet Member for Levelling Up People, Councillor Joe Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor. So before I present my report, I just want to let you know about our Blackpool Catering Service, and it's won 2 national awards, the Food for Life Bronze Award and the Pro Veg School Plates Award. The Food for Life Award shows that the school food provided by our catering service is healthy and uses seasonal ingredients. Pupils and parents are also involved in planning any improvements to school menus and the lunchtime experience. Every pupil is also given the opportunity to visit a local farm and take part in cooking and food growing activities. The catering service is also leading the way in the region as one of 2 councils in the North West to win the Pro Veg School Plates Award, which recognises healthy and climate-friendly school menus across the UK. Blackpool is one of only 9 councils nationally to win this award. The dishes served to our children are nutritionally balanced and tasty, encouraging children to try and opt for more sustainable choices at lunchtime. Lunches can include sweet potato and chickpea curry with whole grain rice and naan bread, sweet and sour veggie noodles, and a plant power fajita wrap with savoury vegetable rice. I fancy going back to school for lunch. Definitely better than when I was there. These awards will help to continue to open up conversations around the importance of making healthier food choices and also educating our children about the impact their food can have on the environment as well as their mental and physical well-being. Our catering service is growing from strength to strength, and these awards are another example of how the team worked tirelessly to improve the service. So I just want to say well done to Derek and all the team. I'm happy to present my report and take any questions. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell, and please pass my best wishes on to Derek and the team. I had these guys before you took over, and it's such a fantastic team, is the catering team. But they'll be dead proud. Yet another award for them. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got theme 1, tackling tobacco addiction and a smoke-free generation. Any questions? No? Theme 2, capital investment in community sport and leisure facilities. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. Excellent work, Councillor Farrell, on sorry. Yes, it's Councillor Farrell. Sorry, I'm full of cold, so my brain isn't quite. Absolutely, I just had that moment. I thought, apologies. Yeah, excellent work on that. But crucially, actually, what I liked about it was the recognition that that community sport facilities and leisure facilities actually matter. And why do they matter? Because all the things that we do when we're 5 years old, when we're out there playing, and all those social relationships are forged often in informal spaces where people play. My worry is, and I'm not going to be too harsh on you because I don't want to sort of reward you with some type of horrible questioning around this when you've put it in. But my question is more around, okay, whilst this is going on, great, but what about all the spaces where this isn't going on? And in Blackpool. So our vision on this side has always been that we want to create a green space for within 15 minutes where every child lives in walking distance. So if we take the town centre, and bearing in mind your portfolio is levelling up, that's really important. So a child at the moment, if they want to play football in the town centre, then they have to play on a car park. There is no green space where you can put your coats down and play football. There isn't certainly no green space where there are football posts. And why does that matter in terms of the levelling up agenda? Because that starts to shape where people live. Currently, if you have a child, you would want to then move to the suburbs rather than stay in the town centre. And obviously Blackpool's aspiration is to bring people into the town centre to work. It should equally be that they want to live here. And for that to happen, kids need somewhere to play. And yet whenever we talk to Growth and Prosperity about it, they say, well, we're going to put a bit of green space in, and we might put a tree on it, or we might put a little flower bed on it. But they ain't going to ever put any goalposts on it. And so we need to challenge back and say, actually, that's not good enough. We need green spaces in our town centre when we're doing the capital projects that actually will allow some space for kids to play on.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've got a couple of things. On the Pro Veg Awards, brilliant. So, yeah, thank you for the contribution there to the climate emergency. Much appreciated, and the great work that's going on there. Secondly, if I may, the green space I think overlaps a little bit with my portfolio. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that young people in the town centre, I take your point, and we absolutely do need more green spaces completely across Blackpool everywhere. But with your 15-minute walking point, most young people in the town centre can get to Stanley Park just about on 15 minutes. I know certainly in Talbot Ward at Street Life we can do that. And on the opposite end, if the tide's not in, there's a great football pitch right on our doorstep. And also in our ward, we've used our ward budgets to make some brilliant green space in our back alleyways. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. Any further questions or comments? No? Oh.
Isn't there also the Mogger in the Talbot and Brunswick area, which does have green space in it, where you could do a miniature football pitch if that's what you really want, but there's a lot of other things you could exercise yourself on, and that's easy, only say 5 to 10 minutes walk away, not even within your 15 minutes. So I take your point, we always need more, but there is that there. So you obviously have walked away.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Okay, in that case, over to you, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Hugo said what I was going to say. So 15 minutes walk from the town centre. We've got Stanley Park and we've got the sports centre as well. And we were also coming on, but we're working on the Revo Sports Village as well. So that's about to happen for our children, young children down there. And they've also got Revo Park. Your point, Councillor Humphreys, about Brunswick, that is going to be upgraded as well, that Mugger, and the new youth facility for the Boys and Girls Club are going to run that as well. So, but I do take everybody's point. I always said we need more green space in the town centre and a lot more trees. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. So moving on, we've got Cabinet Member for Levelling Up Place. No, I'm going to move on now, sorry. Cabinet Member for Levelling Up Place, Councillor Mark Smith. That was general questions, Councillor Baker. We'd already done that.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to present my report to the Council this evening. There's a lot of detailing of the projects we've achieved over the last number of years and going forward. This year, you're going to see some of the projects we've been working on over the years actually open. We're looking at the new car park. We talked about car parks earlier on with the 1,306 car parking spaces. We're looking at the IMAX cinema opening. That's included, there's 9 screens there, including the IMAX. Also, we got the tram line going up Talbot Road with interchange with the new Holiday Inn and the new Marco Pio White Italian diner. Since 2011, when I got elected, I've seen a lot of change across Blackpool. One being the new council offices and the new Sainsbury's building on Talbot Road, which replaced the derelict rundown buildings there. Also, we've seen we had 7.8 million regarding the quality cards funding from the LEP, which improved the roads, the pathways, and many of the shop fronts on Talbot Road, Deansgate, Edward Street, Topping Street. So there's a lot of regeneration work over the years that's already happened, but we're always looking to go more in the future. Also, Levelling Up is not just about big buildings, it's about improving the roads and access across the town. Over the number of years, we've invested lots of money from government support grants to improve and repair all our bridges across the town, which makes it easier and access across the town better for everybody, which makes it easier for people to get employment jobs, get to turn work better and quicker for their employment. But I'll present my report to the council this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So, theme 1, regeneration projects before town centre jobs. Yes, anyone? No? Okay. Theme 2, growth and prosperity 2023, achievements and projects underway. No? There's quite a few there. Sorry. And then we just have a bit at the end on selective licensing. So I'm going to open it up to general questions and comments. So we've got, I'll take you first, Councillor Baker, since I never took you last time. So.
Thank you, Mayor. My question basically was, could I get an answer that I posed to Councillor Williams before about the revenue that comes in from fines and. Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Baker. Thank you. Did you say Councillor Ellison? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's regarding the reimagined buses. The reimagined buses, bus routes, Blackpool Transport? Yeah. So before Christmas, when it came out that the bus services were changing, or reimagined as they branded it, they did put some fantastic advertising out that looked really snazzy and said there was going to be A and B services, that type of thing. But it was very difficult to actually find out the route changes and the timings until the 7th of January when the bus service started. And that's when the problem started. I've had lots of complaints from residents. It doesn't feel like reimagined buses, it's just bus cuts really. Services that used to be 4 times an hour are now twice an hour and not even going anywhere near where they used to. And the number of residents that have complained is quite high, including myself, because I don't drive and I take buses. And I think in this day and age when we're trying to encourage people to use public transport, we should be improving it and not cutting it. So it's been quite a disappointment, and I'm hoping that there will be some more consultation and feedback from, you know, the transport users that we can look at to see which services have worked and which haven't, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sloman. Oh, we've got a few here. Yeah, Councillor Sloman first.
Thank you, Matt. It's to follow on pretty much from what Councillor Ellison's just discussed about buses, and here I am banging on about there being no direct bus route to the hospital. There are direct bus routes to the hospital, and some of them do intersect. However, there are still no direct bus routes to the 6 wards north of this town. They being, just bear with me, obviously Norbreck, Warbeck, Bispham, Ingthorpe, Ankersholm and Norbreck. Largely residential areas. I've had a lot of people complain. One gentleman said to me, at the moment, he feels like we're living in a town of two halves, where there's a focus on regeneration in the town centre, and it's at the cost of maintenance and development to the residential areas. And a lot of people are saying that to me. And although that's unpalatable, I accept that regeneration is important. But we've also got to consider, in terms of the buses, as I say, Blackpool Victoria is one of the largest employers in this town. And the town is largely, certainly at the northern end, occupied by families, young children, and a significant amount of elderly residents who are more likely at some point to need to use the hospital or to attend as their place of work. The residents are largely economically active, contributing to the town's economy, or retired, having made a lifetime contribution to the economy of the town. So they've every right to expect that service. I've got residents and I've got colleagues at the hospital who'd happily use public transport to get to or from work if it didn't involve multiple changes of bus, particularly at shift times and visiting times, which are often during periods of darkness. And I'd also point out that one of the connecting services for the north of the town ceases operation at 7 p.m, right in the middle of visiting, and certainly before people are able to get home from work. Ignoring the transport needs of those residents actually means we are, as Councillor Ellison said, forcing more cars onto the road, which is totally at odds with our mission to reduce car usage. And I'd also raise once again something that went ignored in your previous written reply to me that I did raise, that it's an unfair situation whereby residents are having to use split routes to the hospital and having to pay £2 for each leg of their journey, as opposed to those fortunate living on a direct route who are only having to pay £2. And yes, they could get a day ticket, but it still places them at a financial detriment. So I would urge consideration to be given to the points raised and look into provision of a dedicated hospital ticket maybe that could be capped at £2, that residents and staff alike could purchase to complete all legs of their journey to the hospital, just to mitigate that financial burden a little bit, please. Thank you.
Okay, so we had Councillor Diane Mitchell, and then it's Councillor Will Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. There are some major plans coming together in the town centre, which is great to see. However, having seen a recent survey that was carried out asking local people which area of Blackpool was most in need of investment, and the almost unanimous response being Bond Street and Waterloo Road, I feel it is only right that I ask again what the council is planning to do about this area. Councillor Taylor mentioned lots of investment, unknown figure, but is any of that planned for Bond Street? I still haven't been included in any meetings to discuss regeneration. This would be really interesting. The Hearts building is a complete eyesore and doesn't inspire local investment in new business, old business. Tourism in the area is suffering. The hotels, the guest houses, they need to have people that want to come to that area. I support the council with regards to the heritage protection status, but working with the owner quickly is imperative before what remains collapses. So I ask again, what, if any, are the council's plans for this area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Will Shaw.
By future business rate returns, what happens if business rate income is fully retained by the government in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Then we've got Councillor Baker and then Councillor Galley. I'm going to draw it to a close there.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate something that I've said in this chamber before, and I've written to Blackpool Transport several times about. There's not one bus that goes across Martin Moss. I think it's a poor state of affairs when a large part of the town doesn't even have one bus at all at any time of the day. And there's people who have to travel or walk, taking their children to school, opposite sides of the Moss, really, opposite ends of Midland Road, passing each other on the way. Old people, and some are having to walk 1.9 miles to get to the nearest bus stop. So I think that's a poor state of affairs, and I'd like to see some improvement in that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a follow-up on a question that I asked at last full council for you, Councillor Smith, which you provided me with a written response for. And I'm conscious as a member of the public in and the press who didn't receive the written response, so I will paraphrase that slightly, Mayor. But the response, or the question I asked at the time, was about the delays on the project, the Talbot Gateway Mark II project, which is the hotel and the tram extension, and therefore what was the subsequent costs, and who was paying for them. Great question. And crucially, it needs to be asked in terms of our role as elected members in our ability to make sure that the council spends its money wisely. The response I got from the members of the public and those that are watching and the press was that the original budget was 34.6 million, and that there is a dispute over this, and as a result of that, this item is now an exempt item. And for anyone who has been on scrutiny will be familiar with this answer. It is therefore commercially sensitive, which we fully understand if there is a dispute ongoing. The question therefore, though, Councillor Smith, is that can we have some undertaking from yourself that when that dispute has been settled, that you will commit to being completely transparent with the Chamber and subsequently provide us with a new written answer that actually tells us what the overspend is and who has paid for it?
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Over to you. Councillor Williams.
General questions.
Oh, sorry, yeah, but I did say I was drawing it to a close. Sorry. You have asked me for a break. Okay, Councillor Smith, I can see a theme here, and the theme here is buses.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The questions you give me, I don't normally get this many questions. I had to run out of paper, you know. So, and I think most of them regarding to buses. So, can I take all three buses as one item? I got down here. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to take all three buses because buses are actually run by BTS, which is an arm's-length company from the council, so I don't have no direct input to the buses itself because I don't plan the bus timetables. All I know is we had £506,000 for BSIP Plus to improve and add bus routes and timings to the network. So I'm glad this has been recorded because there's lots of detailed questions in there. So what I'm going to ask is all those questions be raised and passed on to the chair of BTS so they can actually get back to us with a proper detailed response to your questions, because I can't answer all those questions to you tonight. But I think it's the responsibility of BTS to respond. Can we do that, please? Thank you. So parking. Okay, parking. I did get the figures here, so I'll scribble it on a bit of paper somewhere, which now I can't find. On the bottom, yeah. Right, fines across Blackpool last year, we received £964,000 in parking fines. Compared to other local authorities, I mean, Blackpool, remember, is the busiest tourism town in the country with 20 million visitors. Compared to Bolton, which is 1.2 million, and Burnley, which is 1.1 million, which is a shadow of another seaside resort down in the south of the country called Brighton, which was 11.2 million. So I think our parking fines are not as high as other parts of the country. So, but we do sort of, the reason why people get fines is because they park their car legally on WL lines in places where it causes hazards to people to get across the town or get in the way of parking, or not, or overstay maybe in the car parking, which is stops other people using that car park. But all money raised from car parking goes back into maintaining the roads and the network we've got. So money is raised is reinvested in the town. So, Councillor Mitchell, yes, I echo your concerns and frustration with what's down in Bond Street and Waterloo Road. Yes, and the old Hearts building, which was a lovely place many years ago, and I actually went in there before it was trading. And I think I bought some Christmas decorations years ago from the store. And I have seen in the past that there's been an ambitious plan to renovate that property, and I think that's been to planning before. So, but we are working. We want to sort of transform the whole town and improve the whole town. But fortunately, some funding bids only restrict us to the town centre. So where we can get investment and funding, we will spread it across the need of the town where it's needed the most. But yes, I've been down in, and I can see there's some investment needed in that area. So we'll do working with our funding and investment we can do to improve the area down there for you. Right. EZ. Yes, I think this question got asked at the meeting last week regarding the funding. When we do investments on the EZ, money is borrowed to do, like we're building the new sort of access road through and investment into generating the 5,000 jobs over the 25-year cycle. So far, it's been going 8 years, enterprise zone, and we've generated there's been an increase of over 2,500 jobs in that area. So more than halfway through the target 25-year plan. We're looking to build the new access road to go across there, which is going to, we've got 7.5 million from Townsdeal to aid that development. That releases 10.5 hectares of land, which gives the opportunity to develop that site. So, but the borrowing is based on future. We borrow money based on improving the area, based on long-term business rate generated in the future. So we borrow money, but it's paid back when the development happens. Then we receive the money from the business rates. After 25 years, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what happens at that point in time. Hopefully, all borrowing will be paid off, then it'll be self-sufficient. But the borrowing mechanism is funded by future business rates that's raised from there. Paul Galley, your question, thank you. Yes, we did get a response. You know, we are working with the developer on that site, and some issues need to be resolved. But once everything's finished and issues have been resolved, I will come back to full council and let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Right, seeing as we've still got 4 reports and some motions to go, I've had an appeal for a quick break. You're going to have to wait now, Councillor Benson. Yeah. So can I suggest if anyone does need a comfort break, they go now. We'll be back here at 25 to 8. Thank you. Okay, sorry to keep you hanging there, Councillor Benson, but now on to your report. Cabinet Member for Young People and Aspiration.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to put a little bit more information into some of the themes and what have you. So, South Shore... Yes. Yeah, just South Shore Academy. I've no formal update, unfortunately, but we are still working, the Department of Education is still working with the Bright Futures Trust to broker and move to another multi-academy trust, but that may take some time. So if I do get any information, I will obviously fill council in. We are very concerned still about the number of exclusions of the young people attending with unmet need. There's a high number of pupils at South Shore with special needs and educational disabilities. And as an authority, we are supporting the school with educational healthcare plan reviews where necessary to support with school moves or review of practice. If a parent has requested a move, this will be processed through the usual route with an educational care plan review and consultation about a new school move. We're still holding meetings with our head of schools and the chair of governors and the trust lead for school improvement to these pupils that are affected. And educational psychologists are working closely with our special educational needs coordinators in the school. Just want to give members a little bit more information about Langdale. I'm sure there might be some councillors that, that might need that information. So just for information purposes, Langdale was a free school, 3 building on Warbeck Drive, and that was shut at the end of summer term 2023. That wasn't our decision. The decision was made by the Department of Education. The school suffered from relative low numbers on roll, and there was no capacity to extend the school site. All pupils have now been accommodated in the local primary schools and have settled well in their new schools. So there's 3 buildings on that site. We'll be leasing one of the buildings, and that'll be used for specialist SEND provision. We can extend the provision offered, which will keep more children in Blackpool and reduce those out of borough costs. Although these are early tentative arrangements, but the building that we will be leasing will be for education other than at school, small groups provision. Our special educational needs and disability information and advocacy service will be held there. We may be doing speech and language support, SEND assessments. That's not an exhaustive list, but that's you get the general theme. The other building will be leased from the Department of Education by an alternative provider, for children with educational, health and social care plans who may struggle in a mainstream setting. That further again reduces those out of borough costs. We're still in the early stages of the third building, but we'll be looking at a range of creative options which will benefit the community, very much building on the family hub model, but for SEND. Shall I do, I'm running out, oh, I've got something really good.
Okay, it better be, listen, I'm going to allow it, but it better be really good.
Well, it's not good. I just wanted to, because we do hear a lot about the platform and the work that, and I know that it has come to council, but I just wanted to read, when I find it, a little case study about some of the work that they're doing there. And this one is particularly around one of our care leavers. So the success of functional skills education at the platform has had a huge impact on the lives of our care leavers, and we know how vulnerable those young people are and those opportunities that they need. So functional skills at the platform remove barriers for one particular young man. These include he's been excluded from mainstream education as having autism spectrum disorder. Blackpool and Fylde College provided tailored support with a designated tutor, allowing him to succeed and achieve at his own pace. This gave him confidence to go on to successfully complete the Princess Trust team course, and he was able to complete a level 1 qualification. He's since applied for work experience at the recycling centre and also has applied for a part-time job at Martin Mere Caravan Park. He's now able to successfully create his own CVs, including qualifications and work experience he has subsequently gained. His current aim is to complete his functional skills to a level 2 so he can apply for an apprenticeship. Through the support at the platform and working in direct conjunction with the college, he has taken the opportunity to improve his employability, knowledge and skills. So that's just a small snapshot of some of the work that they're doing there with some of our young people. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Benson. And can I just echo that the platform is a great resource for the young people of our town. My 20-year-old has had to access it recently, and they've been nothing less than fantastic with her. So, yeah, I definitely echo that. So we're going to take it theme by theme again. So we've got schools update. Councillor Michelle Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Benson, I'm sure it won't surprise you that I'm standing up on this item. Obviously, Councillor Danny Scott and I were involved when Langdale School closed and supported families to find alternative schools at very short notice, supported by officers. I was a bit disappointed, I have to say, that the first I knew about this as the ward councillor was a report that was out in the public domain, but there we are. But I wonder if there's been enough thought gone into how these buildings will be used. They're not bespoke school premises. They're end-terraced houses, as they were, split across a busy road, on a crossroads, which is an accident black spot, mainly because of the school provision there previously. And we weren't without issues which impacted on the community. So to hear now that those buildings are both going to be put into use again, don't have any issue with the provision of SEND, obviously, but I question whether those are appropriate buildings for that provision. Residents have got used now to having 6 months without the regular upset of the traffic and so on. There are issues with parking. There are no off-street parking facilities. And when you add into that a community family hub, I really don't know where all those people are going to park, where they're going to drop children off, drop people off. It's not really a very ideal location for the reasons that I've mentioned. And I wonder when consultation with the public is going to start on this, and indeed consultation with us as ward councillors too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to really commend Councillor Benson and the relevant officers to committing to an increase in SEND provision in that area that was the Langdale School for our truly most vulnerable. As a Blackpool teacher myself, I've seen the impact of the national squeeze on SEND-specific specialist funding. To increase this really is such a triumph and such a rarity, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Cooper, I'm going to make sure I get it right now.
No, mine isn't a question really, it's more of a comment. I thought because I represent Anchors Home, all the questions for the council seem to sometimes come to me. For some reason, that I've got an answer for everything. However, I had a phone call this morning which I just wanted to bring up really. And it was about, it was a parent from out of the Blackpool area who was looking to actually uproot her family and move here because of the reputation of our special schools and the provision that, and obviously the Ofsted results that they get. And I just wanted to say, this isn't the first phone call I've had, to just commend how well the special schools both perform and indeed prepare their young people for the future. And it just shows that people are prepared to try to move into our area purely because of the provision that they have. And I just wanted to, Councillor Benson, to have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any further questions on theme 1? No? Moving on then to theme 2, the big education conversation. Any questions there? No? Theme 3, adult education, the platform. No? Okay, I'll just allow you to answer these ones before we move on to general questions and comments.
Yeah, Langdale, Councillor Scott, I'm not quite sure how to answer really, because there's no change in usage. It's still going to be a school. I mean, it is good news. You know, we've got so many children going out of Borough, and we've been given this provision that is now going to educate some of our most vulnerable. And I'm quite willing, if you want us to set up a meeting, and I'm not even sure that we have to consultate with the residents, because there's no change of usage. It has been a school, but I'm quite willing to, you know, if you want me to get together with you and our head of schools and our head of sending. I mean, that list I've given is, you know, is not exhaustive. There may be more, there may be less, but it is, you know, I see that as absolutely excellent news for our special school site, you know, and as those issues occur, I'm sure that, you know, you'll be in touch with the department or myself, and we can, you know, try and alleviate residents' fears. But I just see this as a good news story. But, you know, you're the local councillor and you will get the complaints, so it is only right that you raise them at this moment. Councillor Thomas, thank you. Yes, thank you for those comments. I think that some of the themes in my report just shows our commitment and focus to the children and young people with families with special education and disabilities in Blackpool. So all these facilities will ensure that they live happy and healthy lives in Blackpool with their family and friends in their hometown. So all these initiatives and developments will have better outcomes for children, families, and making sure that SEND is everybody's business and SEND, you know, is in the community. Councillor Cooper, thank you. You're not on your own with that, because I'm called Benson. I get lots of calls from people out of town. When they go on the internet, I usually get them all about bins overflowing and what have you. So I feel your pain. Yeah, thank you very much. Our special schools are absolutely outstanding. I think they're all outstanding. And yes, people have tried to move to Blackpool, that postcode lottery for that, you know, but I believe that those schools should be for Blackpool children where possible. But yeah, we're extremely proud of them and extending those provisions by the month. Thank you very much.
Okay, so on to general questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Benson and Councillor Thomas, I'd like to just clarify, I was not questioning the provision of SEND at all. I know as much as any of us in this room how much we need that provision and how valuable it is to our children. What I was questioning was the appropriateness of that location and also putting in a community hub in a very densely populated residential area which already has issues with parking and has previously had other issues when those two end-terraced houses were used to provide schooling. That was my point. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. But I do welcome the opportunity that you've offered. Thank you.
Any general questions or comments on the portfolio? Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. Another good news story. I'm not the bad bear this time. I'm delighted once again to advise that Norbrek Academy Choir has once again reached the prestigious finals of the Barnardo's National Choir Competition, which is going to be held in Birmingham on March the 5th. It's a really positive story for Blackpool as well as the school, because we're a town that's often highlighted for failure and underachievement. Their achievement to reach the finals of this competition is even more remarkable because they have been competing with other finalists, other schools, including those from the private education sector and the cathedral schools. The choir have practiced religiously, forgoing their break times and after school, demonstrating the commitment of both the children and the staff to ensure an enriching programme of extracurricular activity. And I'm sure Councillor Benson, and indeed every member of this chamber, would like to thank the staff and children for their efforts and wish them well in this competition. Of equal, in fact, of more importance, we acknowledge that every day of a child's education can be precious, and we will all do what we can to ensure not a day is wasted or denied to our children. Sadly, however, the 600 children at the Academy have a day's education snatched from them in the name of democracy, as the school has to close to enable us to go to the polls. I've been engaging constructively with the Chief Executive and officers, and I believe we may have found some alternative sites to use as polling stations, but use of these sites may have some financial implications for the authority. I'd ask Councillor Benson, can you assure me that you'll support me in ensuring that any financial implications do not become barriers to using alternative sites, because we cannot put a price on the loss of a single day's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Any further questions or comments on the portfolio? No? In that case, to you, Councillor Benson.
Yeah, Councillor Scott, perhaps I misunderstood your question, and I do take your concerns on board, but I think we need to sit down and talk with the officers and what have you about your concerns and how we can alleviate that. You know, it is a good thing, but yeah, I can appreciate where you're coming from, extra traffic and what have you and things like that. And when I probably put a wrong spin on it and said it was a family hub, that's what we kind of like a drop-in session with people having activities there, one-to-one sessions and what have you. So yeah, that's kind of like going to be the model. It's not going to be an official hub, but it's going to be a hub for SEND. Norbrek Primary, fantastic news, absolutely fantastic. Those extra, I'm going to struggle, curricular activities are so important, especially music for our young people, aren't they? What was it? Polling station. Brain fog. I think I'm going to have to swerve this and pass it over to our returning officer who's sat there. And I don't know if you can answer that, because I don't know if I can. It's a returning officer issue,
It is. I mean, that's why we're looking at it in some detail, so we can look at whether we're able to charge any of the costs to making alternative properties usable to the relevant funding mechanism that we get for different elections. So we have a funding mechanism for the PCC elections, one for general elections. The local election we have to pay for ourselves. So that's why we go through those options with you and see if we can find a way. Maybe ward budgets could come into play, I don't know.
I swear that.
Bit controversial there. Okay, in that case, on to Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Councillor Neil Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move the report as presented.
Thank you. So, theme 1, Adult Social Care, Health and Community Services. No. Theme 2, the Community Team. No. Theme 3, Vitaline. Councillor Sloman.
It's just a quickie, and I won't bore you with this. Vitaline's great. I work at Blackpool Victoria Hospital, as most of you will be bored of hearing by now. We do get a lot of people that pass away at the hospital, and we do get a lot of lost property, and included in that are a lot of the Vitaline tags, and try as we might, we cannot get these collected by whoever needs to collect them to keep the costs down so that it can be reused. I just wanted to flag that up for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. In that case, just on to general questions and comments from the portfolio. Councillor Cooper.
It's simply a term I'd never ever come across before, and I didn't. And what it was that in our private supported living tenancies, if there isn't a room that is not occupied, that there is actually a levy that comes with that. Now, I'd never heard of that. In other areas, it's classified as a void tenancy. And I almost thought, sort of probably naively, that this would be quite a minimal cost. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that people should be forced into living together if indeed that they don't choose to, they are not compatible. However, in some properties, if there is a vacancy in that property, if we say perhaps a property shared by 3 people, if there is an empty room, it comes at a cost. Now, I thought naively probably that cost would be quite low, but it isn't. Per day, per week, per month. Now, I'd certainly heard of that from other authorities. I have no way of knowing whether Blackpool is in a similar situation, and indeed our tenancies may all be full. We may be running at capacity. Again, I have no way of knowing that, but it was simply to know, is that possibly the case with ourselves if we have an empty room in one of our private providers? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any further questions or comments on this portfolio? No? In that case, over to you, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, Councillor Sloman, I agree. I'm always banging on about recycling, not just Vitaline stuff, but other equipment that is no longer used from the health service. I'll pursue it and find out what's going on and send somebody around for it. The other stuff is, in terms of supported living, basically, I haven't got a clue. I don't know. I will give an assurance that the officers will provide us all with a written answer on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. So on to the Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Street Scene and Neighbourhoods, Councillor Burdess.
Thank you, Mayor. Taking it that members have had sufficient time to read the report, but I would like to add some details in order to give a wider explanation and some clarity. So taking each theme in turn, under the Serious Violence Duty, under the Crime and Disorder Act 1998, there is a new serious violence duty placed on health, probation, police, local authorities and other agencies. To understand the picture in Blackpool, a serious violence needs assessment has been conducted and categorised the pattern of violent crime recorded in the area so that we can provide a problem profile and a long-term strategy for violence reduction. There are 9 crime types for serious violence, which are homicide, knife crime, gun crime, assault resulting in injury, rape, robbery, aggravated burglary, domestic abuse and violence, and child exploitation, with the underpinning principle being that all violence is preventable. Blackpool is adopting the Lancashire Serious Violence Strategy, which will mean adopting a public health approach to prevent and reduce violence with a focus on prevention and early intervention. We are currently finalising Blackpool's Serious Violence Action Plan in an effort to implement this public health approach. Here, practice informs evidence and evidence informs practice. Within the Serious Violence Action Plan, there are 4 thematics, and examples of which could be, under prevention of serious violence, within the nighttime economy, establishing a safe centre to protect vulnerable revellers, assess their needs and ensure their safety and well-being. specialist domestic violence and rape courts, which will seek to achieve more successful prosecutions. Under enforcement, using combinations of civil tools and powers at their disposal to effect falling rates of antisocial behaviour, using enforcement teams containing representatives from all partner agencies. We have encouraging evidence that this approach has driven down the rates of ASB to be the lowest they have been in a long time, and showing a continued trajectory of downward travel. By adopting a more holistic approach, it allows for meaningful work to be done through which positive change can happen. Under cultural transformation and workforce development, we will push to review education through the PSHCE curriculum to ensure that awareness of domestic abuse and sexual violence forms part of all young adults' learning. Embedding Green Dot principles and implementing them into working practice such that it's given that interpersonal violence will not be tolerated and everyone is prepared to play their part to prevent it. We will collect and review data and conduct learning reviews with increased regularity. It's a live document which can respond to changing needs in real time. So I thank everybody who has contributed to the action plan for pulling together this mammoth piece of work. I do so because the work of Blackpool Council is being held as best practice across the country for effective sharing of information and collaborative working. Some have received several accolades for our work. The cost of serious violence across Lancashire is significant, so this is a really important new area to focus on, not only to ensure that we have less victims, but also to reduce the cost to statutory partners.
Councillor Brothers, I'm afraid I'm going to have to
Thank you,
stop you
sorry.
there. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I will take questions.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so theme 1, which is the serious violence duty. Sorry, long teeth in. Anyone have any questions at all? Or I think you've covered it quite well there. Anyone at all? No? Theme 2, trading standards, legal selling of vapes to underage children. Sorry, Councillor Michelle Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. What a shocking statistic that is. 100% of tested premises failing the underage sales test. What we don't know is how many of the providers or the retailers of these products that relates to, and what proportion of those retailers it relates to. But what that is telling us is that something needs to be done, because they know it's illegal. They're disregarding the fact that it's illegal. If this 100% of those premises tested are doing it, I would place a fair bet that a lot more of them are as well. So I would like to see that the council will be taking proactive measures to tackle this and make examples of those who are blatantly disregarding the law and putting our young people at risk. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Any further questions or comments on theme 2? No? In that case, any general questions and comments on the portfolio? Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 points of interest I'd like to raise. The first one being around street lighting and lack of it within the town centre. I've been contacted by a number of prominent local businesses who are reporting ongoing levels of antisocial behaviour in and around Clifton Street and Market Street. Business owners are worried that inadequate street lighting is contributing to the number of rough sleepers who are using shop doorways as a place to congregate, sleep, and in some instances use as a public toilet. Indeed, the email I received was reporting employers are arriving for work in the early hours of the morning, often you'll have to clean up other people's feces. Then there is the issue around safety and the public's perception that lowly or poorly lit areas are a magnet for those with criminal intentions. Basically, we are creating no-go zones within the town centre when we should, as a council, should be doing everything in our powers to increase footfall for residents and visitors alike. Can the Cabinet member comment on the lack of street lighting within the town centre, and in order to support local businesses, can we request a full review of the street lighting going forward? This leads me on to my second subject, which is CCTV. At the cost of £2 million, residents were promised a state-of-the-art CCTV installation across the resort, with the control centre costing around £345,000. Given what appears to be ongoing issues whereby commercial shop windows are being smashed on a somewhat regular basis, i.e. Sainsbury's, the former Debenham site, Savers, and more recently the Hive, can the Cabinet member confirm that the state-of-the-art CCTV is being used effectively when trying to catch the perpetrators of this type of crime? Now, I'm not questioning the clarity of the images caught by the new system, as along with Councillor Brooks a couple of years ago, we had the fortunate pleasure of seeing these images, and indeed they are a vast improvement over the previous system. However, this type of crime causes a huge inconvenience and often cost to the business owner when seeking repairs and replacement of that glass, which is often bespoke and tied up in insurance claims. If the CCTV is not acting as a deterrent and it does not appear to be identifying the perpetrators, the question I ask of the Cabinet member is, what is its purpose and was it worth £2 million? Thank you, Lady Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Any further general questions or comments? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine will be very quick. I just want to follow on from Councillor Walsh's point about CCTV. The police seem increasingly to be reluctant to charge people if they don't have CCTV evidence, and particularly in some of our green spaces and those types of areas. So we need to make even better use of the CCTV system that we have and extend it throughout the town. It's not being used to its full extent in the town centre, as we know, and it's needed in other areas of the town too to protect our residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Walsh, can you turn your microphone off, please? Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yes, it was just a point, as Councillor Scott has just said, crimes. This is an issue for the police, how they use the CCT evidence. So I think the question whether it's worth £2 million, if you're referring that to in terms of reduction and investigation of crime, that needs to be levelled at how the police have used that CCT evidence. They arrest and charge people for crimes, not the council.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Okay, over to you, Councillor Burdis.
Okay. So, Councillor Scott, I can't give you the exact numbers in terms of the extent of illegal sales of vapes in terms of the operators, but what I can tell you is something about the priorities of our trading standards team, and they're in dealing with retailers of illicit cigarettes and vapes and the premises they operate from. Our strategy has been to investigate and prosecute every successful seizure in the past. This proved to be resource intensive, making the cost of bringing the actions far outweigh the penalties handed out by the courts, taking the enforcement team away from the critical function of visits. Now, by adopting a visit-based strategy and visiting multiple premises every week, we are finding illicit products on 62% of enforcement visits. Our top priority is removing illicit product from the market. We believe that in adopting such a strategy, that more frequent visits to problematic premises is benefiting local communities in multiple ways, including removing more illicit product from the market and thereby making it harder to access. More disruption to illicit trade makes it more difficult for criminals to operate. Better use of officer time, improving service efficiency. Our officers are becoming more skilled in finding increasingly complex and sophisticated concealment. And operators of illicit retail premises are being hit harder in the pocket through removal of stock and discovery of expensive concealments than they would be through any fine imposed by the court. What this also means is that we can prioritise the worst premises and individuals and focus investigations and prosecution in the worst cases, which is more likely to be successful. We are also able to enforce the provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Act against the landlords of problematic premises should they fail to take action to prevent their premises from being used for criminal purposes. So I hope that answers some of your question. It is a large problem, but I can, if, as you've asked, see if we can get the exact numbers for the extent across the town. So I take your point on board. Again, Councillor Walsh, I can't. I know that there are plans to develop the street lighting right across the town and upgrade it, and certainly in the nearest future we are looking at the Be Who You Want to Be, so they will see almost immediate changes there. There are no no-go areas in the town centre. As far as I'm aware, that where there are kind of where it is has been shown to be an issue, then these will be addressed. In reply to your point about some rough sleepers in town, I would like to advise you that as of this morning, that we are taking legal action there, that the injunction will be handed on that particular couple. So we are enforcing there, and we do enforce where there are problematic rough sleepers. They are a couple who are not engaging. They are intentionally homeless. They have been offered support and they have refused to engage. So there will be litigation against them. As you've said, you've seen the CCTV command centre, and it's not about the quality of the picture. I can't comment as to the criminality, as to how the police use that information. I do know that that system speaks directly to Hutton, so I just can't comment as to how they use that evidence. And again, Councillor Scott, it's the same. I can't comment as to how the police use the CCTV evidence, but what I do know is that we've got a very good system and it is being expanded. So it does keep the... and also, it's not just about the crime in the area. The CCTV is... The use of the CCTV system is far, far wider than any of you have mentioned in this case. And it is certainly more than fit for purpose. So I actually disagree with you saying that you question whether it's serving its purpose, because I, for one, am very happy that it's there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burdess. So moving on, we've got... Oh, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Burdess, thank you for your response to my question. Unfortunately, it didn't really answer it, because I was asking about underage sales of vapes, and your question, I think, referred to illegal sales of tobacco. So that was my understanding. But if you could get the figures for us with regard to how many premises have been tested and what proportion of those have been found to be acting illegally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Walsh. Yes.
I think it's a little bit rich or a little bit poor to say that there's no responsibility for the council. It was the Labour group that championed this state-of-the-art £2 million CCTV. Councillor Brooks championed it when he was portfolio holder. So much so that there obviously has to be a two-way street where you connect with local services, emergency services. Look at Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's are changing their working habits now. They're actually making amendments to the actual building so people can't smash the bottom windows. To say that the council is shirked of all responsibility, I'm sorry, but it doesn't sit well with me. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
I don't know. I think you maybe need to just replay and listen to what I actually said. I didn't say that. Well, I'm up now, aren't I? I didn't say that. I said it's up to the police to arrest people and for crimes. That's what I said.
Okay. I wonder if I should declare an interest in, because I work for Sainsbury's, I'm not sure. I do know actually what's happening with the windows, but I'm not going to go into it here. Okay, so council appointed combined fire authority representatives. I believe it's you, Councillor Baker, that's presenting this time.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I've always known that, you know, the fire brigade or the fire services put out fires and remove children's heads from railings sometimes, and you know, go to motor accidents and get people out of wreckages. When I came into this position with the Lancashire Combined Fire Authority, I didn't really know the extent of what they do, and it's opened my eyes a lot, you know. The wide-ranging activities. I mean, the Prince's Trust, they're involved to a heavy degree with that. I didn't realise that, you know, helping young adults in the development of new skills and as such, giving them a lot more confidence for adult life. The International Support and Rescue team, we've sent people out to Morocco recently, to the earthquake there, and also to the Turkish terrorist attacks, for which, by the way, they won a BBC award for bravery. However, getting back to the fire side of it, we've had no major incidents in Blackpool in the last quarter of 2023, apart from this big fire at the top of the tower. However, we did end up sending out 6 fire engines, a rope rescue team, a drone team, a police air service helicopter with thermal imaging, which all cost a lot of money, of course, for no real reason. You know, it's a shame, really. But anyway, I'm happy to present the Lancashire Combined Fire Authority report for quarter 4 2023, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. I'm just really glad that the tower was not on fire. Councillor Jackson, do you have anything to add? Councillor Hugo? No. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through page by page just to see if members have any questions or comments. Okay, so we've got page 43. Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to echo Councillor Baker's comments about the Princess Trust. So it is a report about fire, but some of the excellent work that the Princess Trust, and particularly some of the work that they are doing in Blackpool, I'm sure yourself and the Deputy Mayor have been to some of those inspirational award ceremonies, and if you ever get a chance, please go. Some of these are our most vulnerable young residents that are possibly on the edge of criminality. They gain confidence, they work towards employment, organised programmes of community activities. Yesterday I was walking up Corn Street, and I saw the guys out there doing some work in the community garden. I have got quite friendly with the guy that runs the Princess Trust, so he come over and have a look at what we're doing, and they're an absolute credit to our town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. I've not had the pleasure yet myself. Councillor Hoyle has on my behalf. I'm usually working at Sainsbury's when they do them, so yeah. Any more questions on page 43? Page 44? Page 45? Page 46? Page 47? Page 48? Come on, guys, you let me down here. 48? No. 49? Or any general questions or comments? No. In that case, I don't know if you would like to respond to Councillor Benson. Councillor Baker?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Benson. I'll pass your good wishes and thanks on to the authority. Thank you.
Thank you. So, it's only agenda item 6. Whoa. Council tax reduction scheme. Over to you, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I formally move the recommendations 2.1 to note the impact of the scheme to date as set out in paragraph 6.7 and 6.8. 2.2 to agree the council tax reduction scheme 2024 to 2025 as set out in appendix 6C. To agree the reduction applied to working age claimants remains the same as the 23-24 scheme agreed by council on the 1st of February 2023, and that the main elements and method of calculating awards will be the same. And 2.4 to agree to continue to operate a discretionary discount policy to be awarded in cases of exceptional hardship as set out in appendix 6A. The reasons for recommendation are to ensure a local council tax reduction scheme is approved by the 11th of March 2024 and in place by the 1st of April 2024, avoiding the financial risk associated with the government imposed default scheme. I move and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. I do believe it's you seconded, Councillor Williams? Yes, it is.
I'm happy to second and reserve the right to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we've obviously always supported this scheme over the years. I wanted to draw members, if I can, Mayor, their attention to the 13.56 addition that we added. It was Councillor Blackburn, when he was councillor and the leader at the time, standing here about 7 or so years ago, explained why that addition was added. And it was really important at the time to work out and to define those who can't pay from those that won't pay. Blackpool Council's tax is high, far too high, some may say. It certainly is, though, something of a concern for me around that figure at the moment, because when we look back, and I went back on the webcast as to Simon's words at the time and why he was introducing it, Mayor, and the spirit that sat within it. And I think it roughly sort of sits around this, on page 53, the table about who are paying now, and that it's gone down to roughly a pre-COVID type level. Whilst that's gone to that level, obviously, as we know, everybody else's living expenses, the cost of living has gone up. And my worry about when we use percentages is that whilst it's great that we do, sometimes we don't actually see the real data. And what we haven't applied, I don't believe, is that actually we've now got 7 or 8 years worth of council tax increases on top of that 13.56%, which therefore means that 13.56% figure is actually slightly greater than when it was introduced back in 2017, 2018 time. So whilst we absolutely will support it for the reasons you said, the deadlines on this are too tight not to. I think as we look for this time next year, that's something that we need to consider, and perhaps a little bit of a piece of work to make sure that that 13.56 is still doing the same thing that it was intended to do back when Simon introduced it 7 or 8 years ago.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Any further speakers on this? No, in that case, over to you, Councillor Farrell, for right to reply.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Galley. Pleased to know that you will support this motion, and obviously we will look to those figures for next year.
Okay, in that case, can I ask if all those that agree, show of hands? Any that disagree? Any abstentions? No, in that case, carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7, Blackpool Youth Justice Service Annual Plan 23 to 24. Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to approve as one of the key partners the Youth Justice Annual Plan 23-24 with effect from the December 24. Reserve the right to respond. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Is that you, Councillor Williams?
Yes, happy to second and reserve the right to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors to speak? No. So no right to reply. So straight to the vote. All those in agreement? Anyone that disagrees? No, I think that was unanimous. Thank you very much. And now we have the very important Council's policy in respect of maternity, paternity and adoption pay. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely delighted that we're bringing this and the happy news, which is now peace seems to have broken out across the chamber momentarily. I hope that will continue for this very welcome report. Yes, moving the recommendations 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 and at 2.5, the recommendation is in relation to the appointment of Councillor Matthew Thomas for the role of replacement chair of scrutiny, levelling up scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Taylor, you're seconding this, I believe? Yeah. Any other councillors to speak? No. Fantastic. Well, in that case, vote to move on the motion. Those that are in agreement? Another unanimous one. Thank you. So, agenda item 9, standards independent persons. Councillor Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, happy to move the recommendation. This is the independent persons, isn't it? I can't open the page. Yeah, whoever, it is the same people who've continued to do a really good job. So, yeah, happy to move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And Councillor Taylor? Yes, seconded. Any other councillors to speak? No. In that case, vote on the motion. Those that agree? Full house again. Thank you. So, last item. Mayor-elect and date of special council meeting. So, that's back over to you, Councillor Williams.
Yes, very happy to move this. I believe that the mayor-elect, at least we won't have the issues of what the mayor's going to call themselves. Oh, you don't. Maybe not. Obviously happy to move that recommendation, and congratulations again, Councillor Hunter. Thank you.
You never know, I might have set a trend here. You know, just mayor, it's dead easy. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, absolutely delighted to second the motion. Councillor Hunter is, I don't think there's not a member in this chamber who's got a bad word to say about him. He's wonderful. Certainly not on this side anyway, Councillor Hunter. Councillor Hunter is going to be a wonderful mayor. I'm sure almost as good to the high standards that you set yourself, Mayor. And I know equally Anne-Marie is going to be a wonderful mayoress as well. And I really look forward to enjoying your mayorship and so forth. So, yeah, absolutely delighted to second on behalf of the group.
Okay, sorry, you distracted me there. Okay, any other councillors to speak? Councillor Hunter.
Yes, I'll be very brief, Mayor. The Leader of the Council did say make it brief because the speeches do come later on that. But can I say thank you to the Leader for proposing me. Thank you to Councillor Galley for his very, very kind words. Yes, I am looking forward to the coming year with humility and pride, but mainly humility, to do my best to serve the people of Blackpool in that particular role, and promise this chamber that I will do everything I possibly can to give honour and dignity to the role of Mayor of Blackpool. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you to Councillor Critchley, who has kindly agreed to be the Deputy Mayor for the coming year. So thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunter. I have to say I'm a little bit jealous because you've got a lot more of a run-in than I had. And Councillor Hoyle as well, he just became a councillor, and that very night I said, would you like to be Deputy Mayor? Poor man. So just to make sure, though, that we're agreeing here to agree that Councillor Peter Hunter is invited to offer himself for election as Mayor at the annual meeting on the 15th of May 2024, and also to agree that the special council meeting takes place on Wednesday the 13th of March 2024 at 6 p.m. Do we all agree to that? That's a full house. Thank you very much for attending tonight. Be careful on your way home. It's still very windy out there. Thank you.
Please look standing.